Yo, a Dallas prospect live stream? Something that brought DDP out of the works has to be going on here because this is not a common thing, I'll grant you. Turns out Mavericks are making some deals at the deadline and bringing me out of a little bit of a funk with, dare I say, excitement. A little bit of excitement here. Mavericks make a couple of deals today for PJ Washington. We talked about him a little bit in the offseason and why he's been kind of near the top of that wish list for them for some time. The dude's 25. He's basically everything that they wanted Grant Williams to be. Grant Williams did not work out here, but all the same, you're able to not only get a 25-year-old guy that has a 7'2" wingspan, can shoot the three, can create his own shot a little bit, but a guy that will immediately be an everyday starter for you. That alone is going to generate some interest here for this team. And the fact that all you give up in the process is Seth Curry, love you, Seth, but the magic's gone. Grant Williams, who we already said didn't work out, and a first round pick, not bad. Worth noting that to make this deal happen, I have read that this is possibly going to end up being like a 4-team trade. And the reason for that is Dallas had to basically pull in OKC into the trade as a means of getting a first round draft pick to meet the capital that was required. So if that's the case, then OKC is effectively giving up probably their worst value first round pick of their, I don't even know how many they still have left. Way too many, enough to fill out two rosters in the NBA, it feels like. But they're getting a first round pick there to make this deal work. I know the Mavericks are getting a couple second round picks back as well in the deal. Adding that without having to lose like a Josh Green is a very nice value thing there for you. So love this deal for Dallas. You got a guy averaging like 13, 14 points a game right now, a guy that can be a very nice defender. And the length, the wingspan, all of that's fantastic. Again, 25 years old. You got him for what, 2.5 more years after this? Because he signed a 3-year, $48 million deal. I think this past off season. So very nice addition there. Love that. Love that. I'll admit I wasn't as on the other trade. I had to look into it a little bit. I don't know a whole lot about Daniel Gafford, but from what I've read, it's another very solid addition for the Mavericks. A great backup center. Yeah, he's not gonna wow you offensively, but you are talking about a guy that's a good defender. And oh yeah, you have your future already there in Derek Lively the second. You don't need a starting center, so you're immediately getting a phenomenal 1-2 punch at the center position. Again, we've talked about that being a major point and issue for this team, a major need for a trade or some kind of move to fill that hole. So now you fill that vacancy at the front court behind Lively, because we've seen how this team has struggled without Lively at times this year. And now you've got a competent guy that I think is he's not just an upgrade over Williams, but even like early in the year before Williams started to really, really drop off, I think he's better than what we even possibly hoped that other fit was going to be. So I absolutely love this move. PJ Washington, he's dropped 40 points. Like a week or two ago? Like he just did this pretty recently, I think. So I when I was circling some of these names that I wanted Dallas to at least look at, I definitely had I definitely had him near the top of the list. I don't know if I had him at number one. I don't really rank guys. I usually just draw out like, all right, this is the group of guys that I think are possible and that I'm interested in if they come available. And then these are the guys that are kind of the pie in the sky. I kind of had him on that border. I didn't know where he was going to be, but having him available and being able to get him at the deal you got him for, knowing you got him for 3 more years, he's going to make like 15.6 this year. Then I think it goes down from there. No, it's 16 and a half, I think, this year. Then he's like 15, 14 to close out those last 3 years of his deal. So that's good. And Gafford's got 3 years left on his deal too. So this is a very good trade deadline haul for the Mavericks, I would say. And, I don't even know that they're done necessarily. Like, I think in terms of the splashier things, they're probably done, but there's still a chance that they could do something here. But the fact that you were able to hang on to Josh Green and really your vital assets, I think is fantastic. Love that. Love that. B Rob, first in the house. What's good? Interesting moves for the Mavs. I agree. I agree. Montreal Garrett, proud of Nico, taking so much pressure off of this fan base, just knowing that we have a competent leader in the front office. I'll throw your comments up there because I like it. I like the positivity. I'm for it. And I agree wholeheartedly. Nico took a lot of criticism early on, and justifiably so in his first year or so. But when you look at what he's done in the last calendar year, looking back at the Kyrie thing, the Kyrie was really the first major announcement from Nico. And then hanging on to Kyrie was like, okay, you've got our attention. So I love everything he's done since then. I'm not going to say everything's been perfect. There's been times where I've still kind of questioned a little bit of what they did, or maybe it's the benefit of hindsight, kind of saying, like, I see why you thought you'd have that, but maybe the evaluation wasn't quite there. I love this move. I love the moves he's making here, and the fact that he's able to hang on to those key assets, I think, is all the better. Twitch and Ash, happy the Mavs made this move. I agree. Drew V, awesome trades by the Mavs. Like it, like it, like it. So let's see. I got some time here for this stream. I'm not just popping in for a quick, like, hey, look, something happened. Here's my 2 sentence thought, and I'll see you later. No, I'm actually going to talk for a little bit. I'll hang back and chat for just a bit with you guys. So let me know in the comments. Let me know. What are your questions? What are your thoughts on this move? How much better do you think the Mavericks are? They've got about 30 games to kind of figure things out here. Obviously, it's been very up and down for this team. I've been a little bit jaded, I guess, a little bit frustrated watching them at times, because it feels like unless they have, whether it's Luka or Kyrie going off, they just struggle. They struggle to close it out. And I think some of their weaknesses, some of their roster insufficiencies have really been glaring at times. So I think these moves address that very well. I was already, before the Washington trade happened, just reading a little bit about Gafford. I was like, okay, I'm not super familiar with this game going in. I already admitted that. But from what I was reading, I liked it. Yes, the Mavericks also got Daniel Gafford. So very much liked the addition. I was like, okay, you're addressing a point of need there. And maybe pie in the sky, you pull something else off to get another one of those guys that you really, really are trying to get. One of those, I'd say, tier one guys you could realistically get. Washington for me is absolutely in that category. I love this. I love this pickup for Dallas here. Let me see here. Check my notes. Shout out, by the way, to my co-host whenever he's in here dropping in, Annie and Duca. Also, congrats on the recent marriage. But Annie points out a very interesting move. I'd love to see Dallas jump on here as well. I had that tab open with him calling for it, but Detroit basically, Killian Hayes waving him. I think that's a fascinating possible pickup there. I would certainly love to see Dallas do another. They've been their track record recently for their low risk, high reward possibility has been good. Exum for sure has been able to do that. Being able to do something again with that, I think, would help this team quite a bit. So very much like it. Yeah, there's his tweet on it. Basically just telling Mavs, do it, roll the dice. I like it. I like it. Yeah, here it was. Pistons are releasing 2020 number 7 pick Killian Hayes, and he's all on board with Dallas bringing him in here. PJ Washington's 43-point game a few weeks ago, a little longer than I thought, but I definitely remember seeing some highlights from the game at the time and thinking like, yep, I don't know how accessible he's going to be, but move him up on the wish list. Thinking about it again. Uzi E, what's good? Kevin O'Connor from, I believe he's with Yahoo here. He says, huge fan of PJ Washington to the Dallas Mavericks. Adds so much lineup flexibility and two-way skill. I agree. His defensive presence, especially when you got a good defensive big with him, is very solid. And the fact that you now have 2 very solid defensive bigs there, and I think Lively has been better offensively, even though it's still getting spoon-fed a lot of his stuff. He's been better and more of an impact player on that end than I think he was given credit for going in. So I love it. I love that the kind of national perception is like, yeah, man, this is a solid move for Dallas here. Tim Cato points out PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford gives Dallas, as things stand now, an incredibly versatile 10-man rotation and about 30 games to figure out exactly how it fits together. That is fair. That is fair. That is a very true point. But yeah, I love these additions. They Mavericks were reporting, or not the Mavericks reporting, but it was reported a few days ago that basically Jason Kidd is kind of the architect behind these moves, like having to sign off on everything here. And that would normally seem like a duh kind of position, but the idea was we're not just going to go out and get like the best player we can. We have to be confident that it fits in the system and that it's someone Kidd really wants and is really willing to work with and for. So, yeah, I like it. I feel like I've said that a few times, but you know what? The point stands. I stand by it. Good things, good things. Let me see. Let me see. This was from Bobby Marks earlier too. Tim McMahon reposting. He said Dallas only had 3 draft assets at their disposal. That was the 2027 first, the 2025 second, and the 2028 second round pick as well via Miami. They're allowed to trade their 2025 first round pick, but only if their 2024 first, which is top 10 protected, is conveyed to the Knicks, who they interestingly play tonight, I believe. Dallas will also have their 2031 starting the pick. So their first round pick, basically that year, they'll have that. Their first round picks are kind of used up for a minute, which is why, as I said earlier, they had to kind of bring OKC into the deal because this was a 2027 first round pick that they sent as part of the compensation to close this deal. That's one of those things too, for like the Thunder perspective, why it's so interesting. Their kind of position, like they have more picks than they can even use. And so they're able to make a move like this where I don't know what they'll end up getting from Dallas in the deal, or maybe it's, it's a multi-team trade, 3 or 4 team trade. Maybe they get that asset from somewhere else, but whatever it is, this is just such an underrated way that they can continue adding value. It's like, we can't use all these picks anyway. Yeah, we'll give you this first round pick so you can make your deal. We'll figure out what you give us later. So maybe it just downgrades to a second round pick. Who knows? But it's just a way to continue adding value if they get like 2 second round picks instead of like a low first round pick in this case. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. move at the last minute. I'm not gonna lie. That's the one thing that I'm still waiting for here. That's the one move that I feel like needs to happen for the Mavericks. I think we've seen that play enough now. It's played out. We need to just move on from it. And sometimes it's painfully obvious how it's going. We've been on the Tim Hardaway bust and experience for longer than I personally care to be at this point. So if I had 2 guys that I was like, hey, no disrespect to you guys, I'm trying to be generally a positive person, but I would not mind if my team dealt you. That was saved for Grant Williams and Tim Hardaway Jr. So you still got time. You still got time if we can move one more. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, Mark Stein adding in here too. Dallas is acquiring Oklahoma City's second least favorable first round pick. So I said the least favorable. It's actually the second least favorable pick from the 2024 draft this June to send Washington in a Rashawn Holmes for Daniel Gafford trade. Look, I felt like Rashawn Holmes could have added so much more to this team, and it was maddening at times to see him not getting the opportunity when you saw what we were getting out of other front court players not named Derek Lively. But sometimes guys just don't gel with their coaches and it doesn't work out. We experienced that an awful lot with Rick Carlisle previously, and we've seen it pretty fairly often with the Kidd tenure as well. So it is what it is. But again, for what you give up, you're not going to use Holmes anyway. You might as well swing him in a deal like this for a very solid defensive backup. Probably one of the best backup centers you could have acquired, I would say. Love that. And holding on to your key talented pieces that you wanted to is huge as well. Speaking of Mavericks, this is a former Maverick. But OKC and their deal for Gordon Hayward, not Haywood. Speaking of former Mavericks, actually sent Bertans to Charlotte as well. So linking that team as well. Maybe that team will be part of that. That's how that 4-team trade works, is the same trade that deals PJ Washington deals Hayward. That'd be interesting. Awful big pieces going out of Charlotte at that point. Let's see. So the Mavericks depth chart, Mavs Muse says, let's just run it down for those out of the mix. We got Luka Doncic and Jaden Hardy. We got Kyrie Irving for now, Tim Hardaway Jr. That's who I'm attributing the for now to. Dante Exum, Josh Green, Derek Jones, PJ Washington, Maxi Kleba, and Omax Prosper. Lively the second, Gafford, and Powell. I like that. But again, we got to figure out the fit and we got to see how this team is able to come together and gel moving into this final 30 games here of the regular season. I'm trying to look just through some of the updates that have come out from like Mark Stein and the like to see if there's anything new that they've tweeted out in the last few minutes or whatever that I haven't seen, just additional context and insight I can offer. Uh, Nothing, and I'm not even seeing it. I'm also checking out to see if there's any trade discussions or rumors going around linking Tim Hardaway Jr., but I'm not seeing that yet. I'll say this. I know some people were talking about the possibility of a Dorian Finney-Smith reunion in Dallas. Man, I love Dodo. He was so huge for us in that Western Conference Finals run, but he dropped off pretty hard the next year, and he's what, like 32 now? He's not old, but I do feel like there's a lot of miles on him at this point. PJ Washington is such an upgrade over that, if for no other reason than the age, like 25 years old instead. And I think what he brings is better. Like maybe if you're talking peak Dorian, which that's the thing I try to say, like when I've seen people talk about the possibility of Dorian, I'm like, I don't think we should bank on it being the Dorian of the West Finals run or even the year before that. He's kind of dropped off a bit, hasn't had the same role and everything with Brooklyn. So this is such an upgrade. And Brooklyn was being weird about what they were wanting to do, what they were wanting to basically charge teams to acquire Finney. I saw a rumor somewhere talking about like 2 first-round picks. Like, I'm sorry, what? No way. Maybe that was just a bad over hedging on their part, but Dallas getting Washington is not only a move I'm much more interested in, but a better acquisition as far as the talent. Report for the move. Oh, respect for the move, excuse me. But does this move us to the second or first round exit? Yeah, I get what you're saying. You're basically saying, hey, this is a nice move, great job, but does it really put us over the hump? It's a fair question. I think this team is capable, but I still feel like they're not there yet. The thing is, the only way you're going to swing a deal that takes you over the top and where you presumably are trying to go, if you're trying to make another deep playoff run, is either team gets red hot at the right time and plays over their heads, which was largely that Western Conference Finals run, or you have to trade a lot of your young talent for win now players. And to Dallas's and specifically Nico Harrison's credit, that has not been their strategy. Otherwise, you would have done a move that would have sent Josh Green or, they've been holding on to Jaden Hardy, which at this point, I've tempered my expectations for Hardy. Coming into the year, I really thought he had 6-man of the year potential. And whether it's how he's been implemented or how he's actually performed when he's out there, I'm kind of wondering now, like, all right, is this just a weird fallback sophomore season for you? Or is this a case where I looked at the highlights and viewed them as if they were the whole package instead of the highlights? Fair question, but they hang on to Hardy as well. They never would have dealt in any of these talks trying to win now. They never would have dealt lively, I don't think. But, Omax, maybe. There's so much that they could have done or considered. So I like that they are trying to keep flexibility and keep building towards the future because, yeah, I know with Luka, more so Kyrie, but like with Luka, you have to show that you're close or that you're on the right path. Kyrie, you're not going to have as long of a window of convincing him to stick around because if it doesn't work out in the next year or two, he's probably looking to go anyway. Like between him hitting free agency, he's probably looking to go elsewhere to try and win again if you're still not close enough. I get that. But you have to maintain that flexibility and that what you're building towards the future to remain relevant. You're not close enough to swing for the fences with a single move and make something happen. So, barring that, you have to be smart. And I think Nico has done that. With Dallas working with OKC so much, I bet Josh Giddey is coming to Dallas by this time next year, says J Max. Interesting. Yeah, the Josh Giddey thing, man. You want to talk about topics that I really have not wanted to touch. Fortunately, being a Mavs channel, I haven't been asked about that question. But my understanding is that no charges or anything were brought forth. And definitely something happened, and that's not cool. But it sounds like it was something where not a catfish situation, but definitely somebody at a place that's 18 and up gave him the wrong impression. From what I've heard from people in OKC that I'm friends with, family and stuff. I don't know. I'm not gonna try and defend or anything that I honestly don't want that headache. But yeah, that's a mess. I don't know. If this really does blow over somehow, yeah, the stain will probably remain to Giddy's name forever. And that's unavoidable. But if it's a situation where there's never an investigation or a suspension or something, then eventually it will fade into the distance. Um, and if that's the case, then OKC is probably not looking to deal him because he is a big part of what they're doing. He's not one of their stars by any means, but he is a starter and a big piece of that very talented young team. That's what, first or second in the Western Conference right now. They're doing phenomenal. And that's why I think for them, the Hayward trade was actually a great, not even a swing for the fences, but just a great, smart move to try and get over the top. Uh, Tim Hardaway for Wiggins, red heart fit. Yeah. Yeah, Wiggins, interesting, interesting story there. Don't see that happening. Don't see that happening. I don't know. I don't imagine Wiggins. Maybe he's going somewhere. I don't see that happening now that you've made the move that you've made for Washington. Let's see. Can Mavs get a first round pick for Josh Green because Hardy they won't. Is Josh Green worth a first round pick? That's hard to say. If he is, it's not a high level first round pick. Maybe a middle of the road, just outside the lottery kind of value. Which I know obviously it's a lottery pick or it's not. It's not like you can say, I'll give you the 16th pick. Like you don't know what you are yet. But yeah, I could see him getting that kind of value. But again, that's why I think it's savvy for Dallas in their dealing with OKC to get that first round capital they needed, not to give up Green. Unless that news comes out later if this 14 thing is what it sounds like. And then you hear that like, oh yeah, by the way, Green was part of that deal to OKC. Well, now I'm officially, I'm still happy about the additions, but at that point I'm kind of like, a little less excited at this point because I do like Green, and just to get that deal to swing for the first round pick, don't love that. So we'll see. Sounds like Giddey got away with one. Yeah. Frankly, yeah. Whether it was knowingly so or unknowingly so is the question. Indications I've heard from people locally there, and again, this is all just locals and their murmurs and stuff like that. I don't know why I put that emphasis on it, murmurs and everything, but it sounds like it was something where it was an 18 and up club. They met up, presumably some hookup of some sort happened. And then when he found out a day or two later, he immediately ghosted, distanced and everything. But at that point, there was photos and like the Snapchat post of them or whatever that went around. And it's kind of like, yeah, bro, you're screwed. You're screwed. So I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. But the name has come up twice now. So Giddey to the Mavericks, probably not. You also don't need him with what you've already got with Luka and Kyrie. So I guess let's move on. Do you think Nico is a better GM than Donnie was? Donnie by the end, absolutely. Donnie Nelson, he's kind of a polarizing figure for Maverick fans because you look at what happened with the Dallas front office, Cuban as well. I know he's not the governor or whatever of the team anymore, but Cuban as well, how this team managed immediately after the championship, basically onward. And there are a lot of very fair questions and criticisms and all of that. No doubt. They basically, on a pipe dream, blew up a championship team, giving them no right to defend. I kind of understand where they're coming from, but they still bet the farm for a championship defending team on a pipe dream, and it blew up in their face, and it hurt their reputation with players so badly that it was probably 5, 6 years before they were even like a viable candidate for any significant free agents. And even then, what was the thing that started to turn it around? Harrison Barnes was the best free agent you signed in all that time. No, I don't count old Darren Williams or guys like that they were picking up that were clearly on the back end of their career. Harrison Barnes was the best free agent signing you got in that dead period. Then you drafted Dennis Smith Jr., thought you had a future there. He didn't work out with your coach, and so that blew up and unfortunately kind of tanked his career, although I am glad to see he's still around and still a viable, nice player, no longer with Charlotte. I was a little surprised to learn recently. I don't watch many Hornets games. I'll cop that. But you had all that, and it set the stage for you to land Luka. And that is worth noting. If you want to talk about the strength of Donnie Nelson, it was that, European player scouting. He and his dad were pivotal, instrumental, paramount even in getting you Dirk. They were doing things in that scouting department before anyone else, giving it a higher consideration than other teams were. And they found you your franchise's GOAT. I know from a talent perspective, Luka has eclipsed. I know. But when you equate talent versus greatness, it is a different conversation. The greatest player in your franchise's history is not the best player always, not always the best player in your franchise history. Case in point, is LeBron the greatest Laker of all time? No. Is he, in terms of his aura and status and his prime, the best player who ever played for the Lakers? That's a much better conversation. And probably most people would say yes, because if they don't put LeBron top, as in best players ever, they put him second behind Jordan. So if that's the conversation, then yeah, those two players are not always the same. So from that standpoint, I think Nelson and what he was able to do in terms of helping build this team, and again, also being a big part of them getting Luka, I think that has to get a lot of credit and a lot of praise. But when it comes to trade dealings, when it comes to talent evaluation, drafting, Nelson was not it by the end. Dude dropped off hard and did not have the same value that he once brought to the franchise. I think he stayed on longer than he could justify, frankly. And it is what it is. But Nico had some growing pains. And in the last maybe 2 years, I've warmed up considerably to him. And I'm hoping that now that you have a new ownership group, you have people who, Lord knows with how much money they have, they'll be willing to, go into the salary tax and everything like that. They'll be willing to pay those increased, more or less fines for going over the cap. That's what you want as a fan. You want ownership that puts people who are competent at their job in powers to actually, or in position, in places to actually do something. And then you want to equip them with as much capital and resources as you can so that they can do their job well to the best of their ability. And I think between the GM change and now the ownership change and the deep pockets that they have, I know Mark is still heading over basketball operations. I'm just saying, your ownership group, it's a different conversation. And so I think they're in a better position now, certainly, than they were then. You don't build this team if you still have Donnie Nelson. You don't pull the Kyrie trade, not because he wouldn't have wanted to, but because I don't think he had the savvy or the relationships to pull it off. And even if you got the Kyrie trade, you damn sure don't convince him to come back on a 3-year deal. So everything I look at for how the Mavericks have managed things in the last couple of years, Nico deserves immense credit for that. And now, if you actually have ownership willing to spend and do whatever it takes to win another championship, okay, cool. I don't care that Mark Cuban's not the owner or governor of the franchise anymore. It makes no difference to me. He's still around anyway. It's not even like he really distanced from him. It's just that someone else is kind of footing that bill now. So it is what it is. I'd take Nico certainly, but I don't want to discredit or dismiss what Donnie's accomplishments and contributions to this franchise were. You don't win that first title without Donnie and some of those moves he made. A lot of those moves, not just finding Dirk, but value that they found even in like undrafted free agents like Marquise Daniels, which and the drafting of Josh Howard in that pick, the same '03 draft. He was a first rounder, but you're still able to build one finals team. Should have been one champion there, and then the year before they went over the top and won the title, you make that deal with Washington that gets you Karan Butler, Brendan Haywood, and Deshaun Stevenson, and that was huge. Even though Butler was hurt for the title run, you had essential pieces that put you over the top, and that was Nelson pulling that trigger. So love it. Let's see. I've been going about 31 minutes here. I basically need to wrap this up. If you guys got anything else, comments, questions, anything you want to chip in here in the chat, let me know. I can hit a couple questions real quick on my way out, but I'm about to have to wind this down here. Nothing on the Hardaway front. It's been quiet there, so I think that ship is largely sailing. But I do like a lot of what the Mavericks have pulled off here. Again, Gafford, fantastic backup center, maybe one of the best backup centers in the league. Not going to give you a lot offensively, but when you got Luca and Kyrie who can spoon feed them those lobs all day, every day, you're going to have a very, very good piece that can help you win. And especially behind Lively. So good. So good. I saw some people kind of likening it to the Tyson Chandler, Brendan Haywood center rotation the Mavericks had during the title. Yeah, yeah, kind of a little bit invokes that. It's the first time you've had two relevant centers at the same time. Let's see. And yeah, PJ Washington, he can attack. He can be a help side defense. He can create a little bit for himself. He's not just a 3-and-D guy. That's what I love. He's not just a guy that sets up in the corner and that you kick it to every now and then. And he'll hopefully knock down a three. He's got a little bit more versatility than that. So I like that. But yeah, interesting stuff here. Let's see. Quick sweep, see if anything else has come through. 1 minute ago, Brad Townsend tweets out, calls have to be completed in 33 minutes. Teams just have to be in the call queue within the next 33 minutes, now 31. So basically talking about till the deadline. As long as you're in a call queue, like you're basically on hold waiting to get through, you can complete the call, which that's cool, I guess. Uh, bu- 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 Hmm. Oh, I read somewhere too. I meant to mention this earlier. Grant Williams going to Charlotte. I believe that's where he's from, if I'm not mistaken. So homecoming for him. I'm sure it's not the circumstances he would have necessarily wanted it to, but maybe that's a little bit comforting. And unless I'm wrong, in which case I'm talking out of my ass. Don't worry about it. Wouldn't be that different from my channel, to be honest. An hour ago, Brad Townsend was saying he's been assured that the PJ Washington acquisition is independent of the Gafford acquisition, which that's relevant because the 4-team trade I was talking about was specifically Charlotte, OKC, Washington, and Dallas. So if they're independent, that means they are different trades going on, which means at the very least, the PJ Washington one with Dallas, I guess that might not be a 3-team trade. You might have done your trade with OKC separate and then done your trade with Charlotte. But the move with the Wizards to get you Gafford is unrelated, according to Brad Townsend. Yeah, Grant Williams went to high school in Charlotte. There you go. All these guys are pre-prime. I like it. Was there any deal you were hoping the Mavs completed other than these? Um, nah, I mean, nothing that really jumps out at me because part of me was thinking like before the Washington thing came together, Washington is in PJ Washington, not Washington is in the team. I was thinking about the possibility of like, do the Mavericks take a chance and get in on the Wiggins conversation? I don't know. I know he wants to be there. He want not Dallas. He wants to be where he's at. But I was at least intrigued by that possibility, and I thought maybe that would be a move that would gel well with Kyrie in particular. But the fact that you're able to get Washington, I'm like, yeah. I mean, Wiggins is a very nice player. I like him. If I had to take pound for pound who I would take between him and Washington, I think the only reason I maybe justify leaning Washington is the contract size and for what your role you were going to ask of him was going to be. I think it's less that you need Washington to be here than Wiggins. So 3 years, 48 million. You're not even paying the full 48 because he's coming in with 30 games left in year one of that deal. Um, and then compared to the deal Wiggins got, I think the value there and what you were probably going to ask both guys to be, your bang for buck is probably, I'm guessing, and maybe I'll eat these words later. I'm guessing going to be better with Washington of those two. So I don't know. A deal that I would have liked to see Dallas do, whatever would have moved on from Tim Hardaway Jr. That's where I'm at. Um, that's where I'm at with moves I'd still like to see. But the big thing for me is that you hold on to your young talent and you're able to make not one but two smart acquisitions that on paper look like they should help elevate your team. If you're trying to find that gear, if you're trying to find a way to pull yourself up in the standings as you currently sit at flipping eighth. I know the conversation is really like 10 now because of the play in, but I still think of it in terms of 8+2. You're sitting a game and a half up on the Lakers for the 8 seed right now. You're trying to find that gear and move up. I just think that this is a move that's going to help you do that. Is it the difference of a first or second round exit? I don't know. I don't know where this team was at, but I've seen enough in recent weeks with them to have concerns that if they didn't do something significant today, they were probably going to have to shift their thinking towards like, all right, we'll do the best we can this year, but realistically, we're looking at the off season now, and that's never a fun place to be with 30 games left. So I like it. I think they got better. I think they made smart moves that keep them flexible and in position to do bigger things later. Say what you want about the Grant Williams evaluation, whether it was the trade or the subsequent deal they gave him. As far as I'm concerned, it worked. Didn't he wasn't the guy for you, but you were able to flip that asset for what you did want, what you wanted even before you made the Williams move. So it's a win. As far as I'm concerned, it's a win. You got where you needed. It just took a couple steps more. And you maintain that flexibility. And you didn't get older either. I mean, Williams is 24 or 25. So you stayed basically the same age, got the better player you originally wanted anyway. It just took one extra step. Let's see. East Side, always a pleasure. Can't catch them. What's good? All right, I think I'm going to wrap this up here. Got to get back to it, back to the grind. Nothing else here that's really drawn my attention for reporting anything additional before I head out here. So I like it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did the Mavericks get better? Is this a good move for Dallas? Are you excited about the acquisitions? And hell, while we're at it, do you think they win in their game tonight against the Knicks in New York? I always feel like that's worth noting. Interesting to get a reunion with Brunson and amid all this talk. But that's my time. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, leave a comment below. Consider, if you'd be so kind, subscribing to the Dallas Prospect. And until next time, guys, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Peace.